Yeah. And tonight, for the Neighborhood Passions Affinity Network, we're going to be talking about um, the passion of planning and development in your neighborhood. And tonight, we are sponsored by Affordable Housing Resource Center, Google, and of course, Neighbor to Neighbor. Uh, we're going to be, again, um going coming from neighborhood planning and development. And the topic is the possibilities of home ownership. And we're excited to have Eddie Latimer, who is a 30-year veteran of the nonprofit housing development industry. Eddie oversees the development of affordable housing resources, single family home ownership programs, construction, lending, education, and foreclosure. He represents affordable housing resources and the need for affordable housing to political organizations, trade, government affiliates, and local and state and at the local and state national levels. I'm just tongue tied tonight. Sorry, Eddie. I apologize. So, Eddie, if you'll go ahead and we welcome you now. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks, Founder. I appreciate it. I live in East Nashville. I live in the East Side neighborhood area, which is like a block or two off of Eastland.
Mm,
So we're over there, and
thank you.
we, like so many of you others, are seeing all these foreigners move in, and one of the biggest challenges is keeping the everybody so they say hi to each other.
Yes, I
So
agree with
it's
that.
always a challenge.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, home ownership is what affordable housing has been doing this for 20 years. Ben is my former board chair, so I'm going to call on Ben periodically because he knows a lot about this. And we we have really we've been able to actually build and sell right at 1,500 single family homes. The majority were 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Some of them were rehab, but most of them were new construction. We're now building some smaller homes, and I can tell about those. We partner, and we've done home buyer ed and our lending. We've helped over 19,000 people in the Middle Tennessee area buy their first home through those programs. And then we do a lot of this special thing, like back in the 2010 to 2015, we helped people keep their homes. We were successful helping over 2,500 people not avoid foreclosure, working with the state. And most recently, we've worked with over 1,000 people, but we've helped over 500 people get their rent paid through the stimulus bill, rental assistance program, in a partnership, 2 different ones. One was with the United Way, which was the city's money, and the other one was with MDHA. So we're pretty much about homeownership promotion and creation, but we're also about homeownership preservation and the preservation of housing. So that's really what we do. We have a staff of about 12 people. Our biggest line of business is lending. So what we can offer people is down payment loans. And historically, we would use a down payment to get the home at a lower price. And so what the problem, and that makes it more affordable. The problem now is the housing is here and the
Yes.
income of a low income person's here.
Right.
And so the down payment is kind of helping them buy up to the market. But it's still working. We're doing about 100 of those a year. And we're trying to figure out if we can do more. And the challenge is there's just not that many homes for sale in our Davidson County market.
Hmm.
Um, and this has been well documented by multiple newspaper articles. But I'll give you an example too why it's an important thing to do is that not long ago, Harvard did a study and they determined that 84% of all personal wealth it originated in the family home or farm. And I remember when my parents, they owned a home, and my father wanted a new line of business that he was real excited about. He had wetted his whistle in it about 3 years, and he had a chance to buy into it. So he mortgaged our home and to get in so he could have some cash to buy in on the partnership. I remember my mother crying at the dinner table because she was so scared she was going to lose everything she had. But at the same time, without that, our lives would have been totally different because the new venture worked, and they increased the family income. So I'm a product of home ownership, and I'm a believer in home ownership.
Right.
Um, and so it's really an important thing. Is it pretty much on an average, 40% of our buyers have been people of color, and which is really strong because the people of
Mhm.
color aren't even 40% of the population. We've had as high as 60% of our buyers on any given year. And from 2000 to 2007, we were building and selling 70 homes a year. And it's just really changed their lives. They get back to us, a lot of them do. We talk to them. A lot of them sell and then move out to Goodlettsville or something and buy a bigger home. But it gets people started and it lets
Right.
them go.
Eddie, how does a person engage with you, and is there particular criteria that are required?
Well, what we do is the very first thing you have to do is we need to do an income intake form. So when people they call us or email us, either one, and I guess like we could give everybody our information. But so what they would do is they would get the front desk, and the caller would tell them what they were. I'm interested in buying a home, and then they would send them to the appropriate staff person who would send them an intake form. And the intake form is about 5 or 6 pages. Basically, we ask the same questions that the federal government wants on all their programs. Who are you? In other words, where do you live? How big's your family? That kind of thing. How much do you make? And how much do you owe? And with that, but we have to have that information to know if your income verifiable. Most of our homes with the most we can sell them to is people making 80% AMI. So right now, for a family of one, that would be 87,000. For a family of four, that's 47,000. For family one, 47, and for a family of four, that would be 67,000. So the first thing, Valerie, is we need to make sure they don't make too much money.
Hmm.
And then they would fill that out, and then we would have them talk to our staff, and we would figure out what they want to buy, where they are. If they have a bad credit score, we'll pull a generic credit score. We would then give them personalized information on what they need to do to improve their credit score, so that because without that, the banks aren't going to look at you.
Hmm.
So really, you need about at least 600 credit score.
I've heard recently from folks that, why buy? Why not just rent? You can avoid all of the headaches of buying. What are your thoughts about that? I know you do both rental and purchase, but for someone who has that argument, what
No,
would?
no, it's been going on a long time. Basically, right now, for our 3 bedroom home, you could probably own that for $1,200 a month. For a 1 bedroom home, you can own it for about $950 a month. Well, you cannot rent at that level. So
No,
one reason to
not.
own is it's a lot cheaper on your monthly budget. Another reason is when you own, then you can take steps to improve the energy efficiency of your home, so that your utility bills are reduced, which is really important, in those cold winter months, and in September, August and September. Um, so that's the main thing. But the basic thing is when you decide to sell your home, you're going to have $10,000, $20,000 or so available to you that you could use for anything. Pay off a credit card, buy a new car, uh, use it as a down payment on a new home and move up to a larger home in a different school district, whatever you want to do. You can also move a lot easier as a renter. I'll say that you just up and move, but you're not taking any equity with you.
Right, right. Um, in Nashville, it's really tough to find properties. Um, I use myself for instance. I was trying to find something, reasonable, and I had a really challenging time doing that. In the city. So are people able to get these homes in Davidson County that you're talking about?
Uh, they are very few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in partnership with the Barnes Fund, the
Mm-hmm.
City Housing Trust Fund. So we get land from them, and we've got 7 homes under construction. We've got 4 one-bedroom homes that were just completed. So we've got almost a dozen homes that people could look at. 3 bedroom. They're in out near Wedgwood, Houston.
Mm-hmm.
They are over near in North Nashville, and a few of them are in Madison.
Okay, that's good.
Who builds those homes, Eddie? Just out of curiosity, who's building them? Are they affordable housing developers, or who is it that
No,
actually?
we would win the grant and we would hire a general contractor.
Okay.
So it's just built like any home in the city, pulling building permits and all.
Yeah,
Okay.
But we make sure they come in at the right price.
right.
Mm,
You've
yeah.
observed the market for years and years. And again, I've heard again that this bubble is going to burst, that the housing market is going to finally kind of deflate. Do you feel that, or do you think that?
All right, I'll make a comment, then I would love to hear Ben's thoughts.
Hmm.
Um, so no, I don't think we're in a bubble really.
Mm.
What I think is I think we're in insanity. Um,
I
we're in
agree with
absolute
that.
chaos. Yes. Rich people have a lot of money. And in the past 3 months, there are more investors buying properties than in like 7 or 8 years. I mean, the investors are just killing it buying stuff. So the demand is there for 2 reasons. Investors have to put their money somewhere, and real estate and the stock market are 2 of the best places to put money
Right.
if you're rich. And then the other one is these kids love our city
Yeah.
and they just continue to move here.
Hmm.
And then you've got a huge flight from LA, Chicago, the DC area, and they like Nashville. And a lot of them are moving here. So the number of people moving into the town itself would keep the supply low, I think, for a couple more years. Ben, what are your thoughts? You have to unmute.
Oh. What'd you say, Eddie?
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Ben?
Oh gosh, Eddie. You guys strap in for just a second because I'm gonna take you on a quick ride here. As far as the bubble, every time I hear that, I keep wondering, what are we talking about here? And the only thing that I can think of that we're talking about is we've got more investor dollars coming into Nashville right now because it's a big sucking sound of profit for them. And so the everyday Joe that works hard every day in Nashville, goes to work, his wife goes to work, they send the kids to school, are going to catch it trying to buy a home in Nashville. So right now you see a lot of investor money, just a sucking sound of investor money coming into Nashville because it's just the big thing. As long as you're in the top 10 of markets in the United States, the idea of a bubble is just kind of ridiculous. The only people that are going to lose in this bubble, if there is a bubble, are the investors. Because the everyday Joe has been locked out of this market.
Mhm.
and there's been nothing done by the city to offset what's happening in the market in terms of investor dollars coming to Nashville to build. They've done a great job of recruiting corporate headquarters to the area and bringing in corporate dollars from all around. It's going to be the relocation capital for the country if we continue at this pace, because we don't have a state income tax and we have a relatively extremely low property tax, despite what the native Nashvilleian might feel about it. It's still a low tax compared to what
Really
New
is.
Jersey, New York, California, and those markets. So when you have that kind of energy going on in the market, the only people that are going to lose, and the best thing about this particular thing, if there is a bubble, it's a good thing for the everyday Joe because they'll have an opportunity to come back in and buy cheap. But you have to be prepared to buy, and like Eddie and Affordable Housing Resources over the years, we've been doing, I mean, we've done great over the years, Eddie. And in terms of educating people about what we need to buy homes, but now that you're offering something that people can't even go out on the market and actually put into work in Nashville, because I go to Eddie, I get the home counseling, I get the access to the resources, the down payment assistance, and everything that I need to buy a home, but there's not a home for me to buy because when I go into the market, it's a multi-offer scenario.
Mhm.
And they're paying $30,000 more than the asking price, and they're paying cash. I
Mhm.
can't compete with that. So
Mm.
I don't know if I'm answering the question, but what I will say is this: if there is a bubble, the best thing about it is not like the bubble of 2007, 2008, where we saw families adversely affected by it. Nashville bounced back a lot quicker than a lot of other markets because conservatively, banking wise, mortgage wise, we've always stayed in the pocket in terms of the lending practices. We didn't get aggressive like Las Vegas, California, and some other markets. So I think we're in a safe place. But what agencies, community asset institutions, nonprofits have got to do in the Nashville market is get people that have employment, get them acclimated to what it's going to take for them to buy a home. And so when that bubble does pop, they will have an opportunity if they have their ducks in a row. I'm going to be quiet now, Eddie.
That was
I don't know
good.
if what you were looking for, but that's
Yeah.
what came to mind.
No, that's good. And Valerie, I tell you, I just, with what Ben said, reminded me, Channel 17 did a report just the other day, and they were talking about these 3,000 new jobs that are coming to Mount Juliet that Amazon's bringing out to their new warehouse,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to pay $15 to $17 an hour. And you know what the byline to the story was?
No, what?
Where are all these people going to live?
Live,
Because the mayor, the planning commission, they said, we don't have any homes on the market that are affordable for that wage
for
group.
that wage, right, right.
So that's why, and that's also sort of supports what Ben was saying too, is just the demand is just overwhelming.
Tremendous. So what is the mayor's office doing to help people?
I'm going to vote the Fifth Amendment on the grounds that this may incriminate me.
Valerie, I'd like to say too, a lot of times these companies that are offering $17 and $18 an hour, it's part-time. So it sounds good.
Oh, I don't know.
You realize a lot of these people are only working like 30 hours a week or so.
Right.
So it's not a true full-time
Yeah,
job in
yeah.
a lot of instances.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Ben.
Thank you,
Um,
Anita.
We'll offer up a little something here. It's for years I've said this, and people said it's not very politically correct, but that's the reason why Eddie and I are such good friends. I've said here that I don't know if a lot of you remember, there's a thing that happened back in the 90s in Atlanta called the Freaknik.
Mhm.
And it was spring break for kids that attended historically Black colleges and universities.
Mhm.
So instead of going to Florida like a lot of the white kids did, the Black kids would go to Atlanta. And they would just park in the streets and party in the streets for spring break. And what that created in Atlanta is what you're seeing 20 years later. What that created in Atlanta is that you've got a city, an urban city in the South, where you've got a hugely politically aligned Black populace. Because a lot of those kids, when they came there in the college days, um, their last 2 years of college, they said, "Man, that was so much fun. When I graduate, I'm going to move to Atlanta."
Mhm.
And so you had a sucking sound of college educated individuals going to Atlanta. What I would propose to you is that Nashville is white Atlanta, because you have the same sucking sound of young white talent, college educated, but they come here every year for the SEC basketball tournament. And they come here and they hang out and they go to the game at the arena, and then they come out and spill out into the streets of Broadway, and they have a great time. They party, they drink, and they like, and so their last 2 years of college are like, when I graduate, I'm going to Nashville. Difference is they have parents that have the means and the resources to buy them a home here while they come here and teach for a couple of years with Teach for America or whatnot, because the parents know that they're not going to lose money if they buy them a home cash here in Nashville. So the moral of the story is that we've got a city that's kind of suffering from a great PR job and a great marketing job from the standpoint of outreach to the world, outreach to the other states. But in terms of internally, locally, we haven't put enough money into workforce development, tooling up in terms of our job trade and skills. And so now you have a native Nashvilleian population that can't afford to stay here.
Mhm.
And so this tax, and I just looked at some numbers last week about the taxes that are taking place at the property taxes. And you've got 540 cases of delinquent taxes in just Council District 1 alone. The tax bills have hit and people haven't paid their tax bills. So there's 540 homes. So a year from now, they're going to be doubled down with another tax bill that they can't pay. And so we're looking at a window of about 3 years that these people are going to have to make some harsh decisions. A lot of my development interests have pushed to Springfield, Lewisburg, Clarksville, other markets, and to find soft places for people to land. It can't be home ownership initially, because they're going to come out of a situation, hopefully if they own the home and sell, they've maintained their credit or maintained enough of their credit to be able to buy. You've got to put probably a mix of about 40-60 in terms of 60 home ownership, 40% rental, to capture some of the market of the people that are going to spill out of Nashville, because there's so many people coming here because we're the relocation center of the country for not just corporate, but also retirees from the Northeast and California and other regions where pensions, property taxes and pensions, if they move here, they give themselves an increased income each year from their pension because they don't have the high property tax or the state income tax.
Mhm.
So the bubble's not going to hit Nashville. It's going to hit other places, but it's just, Nashville is just not one of the markets where you're going to see a real estate bubble. But back to the initial question, what is the mayor's office doing? it's too late for this particular administration to do anything about what's already in motion. This snowball is so big, you can't stop it. It's rolling downhill. It's got a lot of weight and it's picking up more weight. So this is probably 2 to 3 administrations back where things needed to be done rather than kicking the tax can down the road. We should have implemented the tax and been an incremental tax, and it wouldn't have been as harsh a reality check for everybody that was what we're seeing now. And that points back to the 540 cases of tax delinquencies in District 1.
Mm,
I'm quiet.
40
I'm
cases.
done talking.
Well, you guys paint kind of not a happy picture. You tell us something hopeful in all of this. Oh,
Well, I
goodness.
mean, here's the thing that you have to understand is that families in 2019, which was the last year this number was kept, Nashville had a decrease in population of 7,900 people. Decrease. But we increased family units by 5,000. Therefore, and that's what you count when you talk about if the city's growing or not. So therefore, they said, yeah, the city's growing because family units increased 5,000 more than the population decreased. Well, what happened is all the families, because of schools and cost and travel and everything, moved out of Davidson County. They moved to Laverne and Smyrna. They moved to Cheatham County. They moved, a lot of them moved, you can't get into Rutherford anymore, but a lot of them started moving into Sumner and Wilson. And so who came in here were all these singles. And that's why we had an increase in family size. We had all these singles and young couples. So when you say paint a brighter picture, I think that where we are right now is homeownership's still great, and we've got homes for sale. If y'all know people that want to buy a home, all they have to do is call us. We've got a lot of really cute 3-bedroom homes out there. But we don't know what it's going to look like in 2022 or 2023 even. And until we have some kind of idea what's coming around the bend, it's really hard to get a foundation and a footing on what's the best approach to tomorrow.
Mhm, mhm.
Does that make sense?
It
We're
does.
trying to figure out today.
Trying to hear it right. So you told us a minimum amount of money that people had to be able to make in order to use your services. Is there a maximum amount of money that people need?
No, that's the maximum.
Oh, you told me
67 is the
maximum.
maximum they can make.
Okay, sorry.
For a family of 4, 47 is the maximum a single could make. I
Uh-huh.
think a couple's like 54,000 they can make.
Okay. Okay. Helen or Anita, do you all have any questions, or Trish as well, for
I
Eddie?
don't. I've heard a lot, and some I agree with, and some I don't, because I've been in the political arena, and I look at numbers, and I look at tax stuff, and I look at home ownership, and all of this. And like I said, some of it I agree with, and some of it I do not agree with,
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people that I talk to, because I'm the president of my home association, um, talking about the tax increase here in Nashville. And it's going to be hard for a lot of people. We only got part of it. The next part they're going to see is going to be like October. And that's going to send up a lot of people over the heels with their homes. A lot of people are going to suffer from a lot of stuff with the tax increase stuff. So home ownership, you got to be making a certain income to live here in Nashville.
Right.
And if you're not, you're going to be pushed out. It's just
Mhm.
as simple as that. And as far as what the mayor office is doing, the mayor might be trying to bring some stuff to the forefront to help people, but they're not doing enough. There's
Right.
a lot of people going to suffer from this, and we haven't seen it yet, but it's going to be.
Yeah.
I work in the registered deeds office. I see people coming in there, and I see a number of people looking to get their their deeds to their home. They want to check and see this and see that. You'd be surprised. We standing on one looking out, and then there's a whole new window to look out for some of the people here in Nashville.
Helen, what do you mean by
And
that?
a lot of people rather rent than own. A lot of people rather rent than own because they don't want to have a high tax bill to pay when they're rent. They won't have that.
Yeah, but
With all
okay,
the
Helen,
American home things coming in, that's gonna be in the Antioch area. They're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna want to rent those homes because they don't want to pay the high tax bill.
well, the high tax bill, and I hear what you're saying, but the thing is, if I own, I'm going to know about the property tax increase in February when I have to pay it next February. I'll get the bill in
Absolutely.
October and I have to pay it in February. It may take the landlord a longer time to get it, but let me tell you, he ain't going to pay it. The renters are going to pay the tax
No,
increase.
he's not. He's gonna rent. That's what's gonna pay it. That's who's gonna pay it. I know some people that's renting right now, and she was very upset. One of the girls is over in East Nashville. She was very upset because they took her rent up, and like the guy that she's rent from told her, "I'm sorry, I got the tax bill,
Hmm.
but I got to increase this. They'll pay it." So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of people gonna suffer, and I can understand people that want to rent. I don't want to rent. I own my home, but I'm gonna do what I can to stay there. But the people that's renting, they can't afford to buy a home. They don't want to buy the home because of the tax increase. So they can get uh, one family and then invite the sister to come in and stay. So there's two people living in that 1 3-bedroom home to help pay the rent and all of that home. They don't have the tax bill to pay.
They don't have the tax bill to pay, but they're paying for the increased taxes.
Hmm.
They are, but it's better for them to double up than it is for
Yeah.
them to try to pay it by themselves.
And so that creates all this hidden homelessness that we have in
Hmm.
this city.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Basically, Helen, I'm with you that people are, I think right now, if you make under $40,000 a year, which is $20 an hour, if you try to move here or move around, you're not going to find anything in the county.
Nothing.
And those are
I
renters. Those are renters.
we have some duplexes in my area as well as homes over there. And I drive around periodically because I had to put codes on some of the renters, but it goes to who owns the property. And it was because I saw this house that had like 7 cars in the yard, and I was asking, that's a only 2 bedrooms. So what is going on with that? But he had moved his family members in there with him. He lost his job when we had the pandemic. So he said he couldn't afford to pay what the rent had gone up to. So he had to get some people in the house with him there. So it caused a lot of issues for a lot of people.
Valerie,
You're
you
absolutely
asked,
right.
Valerie, I
Say
think
that.
really the issue is, and I didn't know this was going to go this direction, but it is a little discouraging. But I live with this all day long, so it's sort of same old to me. But the thing is we have got to find a way to get city council and to get the mayor administration to understand and let them tell us what they feel like their obligations are to the citizens. I mean, do the neighborhood associations, this would be a question for you guys, do they want to see their neighborhoods grow from people that are making $40,000, 30, 40 a year, 50,000, and become a place where 70 and 80,000 a year people live? I mean, it's good. It's good for property values. It's really good. It really helps the school systems if they get involved in the school. It does all that, but basically the 70 and $80,000 people are going to probably go to private schools. And I mean, that's something the neighborhoods could really hold the city accountable for, is what do they want to see with we'll call it the historical residents versus the new residents,
Hmm. Hmm.
to keep the neighborhood flavor. What is needed?
Hmm. Yeah, we have that conversation quite a bit
Oh, yeah.
with neighborhoods about, um, how do we get along, in a
Mhm.
neighborhood. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting that in my younger years, that was just the way it was. You know what I mean? We've come to this point where that isn't the way it is. It wasn't anything for in a neighborhood to have a merchant and then have maybe the person cleaning his facilities in the same neighborhood, you know. um, but we've really gotten away from that now.
Yeah, I know in my community, I'm just flabbergasted at the the just pushback for having a diversified neighborhood.
Hmm.
We, we're wedged between the zoo and Creve Hall. And when we moved in here, we were fairly reasonably priced, but now it's disgraceful what people are getting for the homes in our neighborhood. I
Hmm.
mean, two doors down is like $500,000. It's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Hmm.
And, but, when you know, I don't know how long ago it was, Valerie, when we had that affordable housing seminar at
Hmm.
N2N, and I had advertised it. And I had someone come back on our next door saying, we don't want those people in our neighborhood. I said, those people are dodging bullets for you. Those people
Hmm.
are running into burning buildings for you. Those people are teaching your children. And
Hmm.
like, fine, they can live in another neighborhood. We don't want them here. I'm like, this is
Hmm.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was just embarrassing to be,
Hmm.
have neighbors that were saying these things. It was just disgusting.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's shocking the ignorance of people who don't understand that a diversified neighborhood is a better neighborhood.
Hmm. 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 For sure. For sure. All right. Well, Eddie, I'm gonna let you have the final word. Is anything you'd like to
Well,
say to us this
no,
evening?
I'd go back to this is that Nashville's a good city. If you can own a home, if you can afford to buy a home, this is a really good time to do it. We can sell you a home for $200,000 that would appraise for 340
Mm.
because of our partnership with the Barnes Fund. We can help people using down payment programs and other things get into a home that they're not going to be able to get into on their own. And then their equity would grow, which is going to give them options down the road on where they
Uh,
want to live.
Explain that Barnes Fund. You've mentioned it before tonight. What is that exactly?
It's the city's housing trust fund where they award every year between $5 to $10 million to various nonprofits in the city to develop affordable housing. Like a lot, if you were to go over here on come the bridge over the Bordeaux Bridge and went
Right.
straight in on Clarksville Highway,
Yes.
there are a lot of brand new apartments right to that corridor near that
Hmm.
funeral home, and those were all built with Barnes Fund money.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
we've built. There are a lot of new homes in the 37208 area that were built with Barnes Fund funding.
Very nice. So a person though would have to access those funds through another organization. You wouldn't go directly to the Barnes Fund.
No, no, we win the money, and then we use
Okay.
that grant so that we can buy the cost of the unit down when we sell it.
Okay.
So that grant money, if it costs like, let's say $100,000 to build a home and we win 20 from the Barnes Fund, then we only have $80,000 in bank money that we have to pay back. So the final mortgage can be a little less.
Mm-hmm.
Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. Yes. Okay. Well, Eddie, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and helping us better understand home ownership and the natural landscape. We've learned a lot this evening. I appreciate that, and thank you, audience, for being here and your interesting comments and questions. And always remember that great neighborhoods don't happen by accident. Find your neighborhood passion and work hard to make your neighborhood a safe and more vibrant place to live. Good night, everybody. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Valerie.
Have a good evening.
Good evening. Have a good evening.
Thank